Hello, Mrs. Houston here. Today's learning target is I can graph linear equations. Okay, and today the equation that we're going to graph is y equals -1/2 x minus 1. Okay, now when you're graphing a linear equation, there's two ways that you can go about it. The first way is to use your graphing calculator. So you can put this into your y equals, and remember, you might have a function, it might say f of x or something equals. Regardless of what it is, you're going to use the y equals button on your calculator, and then you're going to type in -1/2 x minus 1, and then you go second graph to get your table. Okay, if you need help with that, I posted a second video of how to put that into your calculator. So you can pause and go watch that video now. If you are okay with doing that, I would like you to pause the video now, go to your graphing calculator, and then write down the table of points that you get from your calculator. Okay, so as you can see, I brought up the table of points here. And as I talked about in the other video, this standard grid only goes from -10 to +10 in both the x and the y. So that's why I've chosen these points to plot. You don't have to plot every single point, but it's good to make sure you do at least 3 to 4 points to make sure that you're getting a good representation of what the graph should look like. So for a line, though, it should be a constant rate, so you should be able to draw a straight line through them. I also talk about going to the graph in your calculator and looking at that picture and making sure that this graph matches up with that graph. Unfortunately, I don't have the graphing calculator on this computer. So if I'm going to plot these points, -10, 4 means I go left 10, up 4, and I make my first point right there. It's a little hard to do on the computer sometimes. -8, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3. Okay. -6, 2, I go left 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up 2. Okay, now so far it's looking good. It's making a straight line. So go ahead and pause the video here, and then you can plot the rest of these points. Okay, as you can see here, I finished plotting all of those points, and now I'm going to try to use my line feature. Remember that you should put, if you don't draw it all the way to the edge of the grid, you should put an arrow on the end. I like to always put an arrow on the end just to be safe, so I put an arrow on both ends even though it went all the way. And I also forgot to talk about was that when I was choosing these points, I only picked the whole number points, because when I plot -10 and -8, it goes through -9 that had a fractional value anyway. So as you can see, -9 would be here. That would be this halfway point right here. And so instead of, making it tricky and trying to graph all those halves, the line, just connect the line through it. So you can pick and choose which points are smarter to graph, which points are going to make it easier. Okay, that's the first way to graph. The second way to graph is using the slope and the y-intercept. So we just reviewed how to do that, and so hopefully you can see this is the number in front of x. So the slope equals -1/2. Okay, and then the y-intercept is this number. So the y-intercept is -1. Okay, when you're graphing this way, you start at -1. So here's my y-axis, so I have to go down 1. That would be this point right here. Okay, and now I'm going to count my slope. And remember, slope is rise, which means either up or down, over run, which means right to left. Okay, so basically here, this -1 is telling me to go down 1, and then this 2 is positive, so it's telling me to go right 2. So from that y-intercept, I'm going to go down 1, right 2. And you don't want to make those dots. I'm just showing you where I was counting. And now watch, if I follow that same pattern, down 1, right 2, I end up at the next point. And then down 1, right 2, the next point. Down 1, right 2, the next point. Okay, and the same thing if you had to go backwards. Instead of going down and right, you would go up 1, left 2. Okay, because if I'm going up, that's positive 1, but left is negative 2. Okay, so I still end up with negative 1/2. Okay, if the negative is either in the numerator or the denominator, it makes the whole fraction negative. So I could keep continuing that pattern this way as well. And as you can see, it's the exact same points that we already plotted. So you can choose whichever way works best for you.